Thursday afternoon. I have been editing the final video on building the table saw, and I don't know, about halfway through that. Thought I would break up the day a little bit and come out and record this, give myself a break from sitting and talk a little bit about the saw. And I posted the video this morning on this blade right here that I made. I was not gonna do it, but yesterday morning I got up and I was supposed to start editing this video, and I said, why don't you try to edit this one and just put it out, okay? Because I hate filming a whole project and then not doing anything with it. So I did it. Is this something that you want to do? Probably not. Is this something that's worthwhile doing? Probably not. I mean, my intention with this blade, and I actually had to, I thought it was obvious in the way I worded things in the video and in the description, that this is made for cutting box joints. This 1/8 inch kerf is what it's supposed to be. And that's the reason why I made it. I made it so that I could use my box joint jig, which is up there. You can't see it, but it's up there. And I did for this, cutting the sample. But I wanted to make a project with it because it was a long time. And one thing that drives sales to the plans is exposure through the video. So I was going to make a project using the blue top table saw, using this blade with box joints. I didn't know what it was going to be, but I just knew I needed a blade that could work with 1/8 inch box joints. So let's talk about the saw a little bit. Almost done. And the video will cover it up to this point right here that it's at. What I was doing last night was I was marking out the angle scale on the front here using this tilt block. So there's that. What else can I say about the saw? I've used it several times since I moved it down here to test the concept of having the bottom open, because that was the idea with the stand, to have the bottom open, dust just falls down onto the floor, and then at the end of a cutting session, you just sweep it up and put it in the dustpan, okay? And it wouldn't fall into a box that will eventually overfill and eventually become too heavy and eventually become a problem. You clean it up as you go, and that would kind of force your hand. All right, the dust is falling underneath the saw. You grab the broom, you sweep it up, put it in the bin, you get rid of that from there, and the shop stays relatively clean without complicating things. Now, in the meantime, it's my intention to have some kind of fine dust collection system here. I haven't thought of what it's going to be yet, or I haven't devised that yet. Before, I was using a small shop vac, just plugged into a port at the back of the saw that catches the fine dust that floats around inside. That's all that did. The big stuff still fell down, and that would be my intention here as well. I've got no intention of trying to catch everything that comes from the saw. People's expectation for dust collection is insane. If you've got a huge shop and can afford one of these huge dust collection systems, then yes, get as much dust as you possibly can. But here in a small shop, you can't afford to be giving up space to dust collection systems that, basically replace or make up for your own laziness because you can sweep the floor very easily. And if a little bit of dust gets in the air, one thing you should have is an air cleaner. An air cleaner is good. Also wear a dust mask. You never see me wearing one, but don't look at me. Don't do what I do. You should wear a dust mask. Anyway, what else can I talk about? Tilt axis of the saw a little bit off. What happened there is when I started designing this, and the idea was to design on the fly type thing, just do the minimum and come out and start building so to keep it, interesting for me, is I just grabbed that arbor assembly from the Epic table saw plans and I shifted it over to this in SketchUp, and I just started designing around it, and I never actually checked, even though I said, you should check that, John, to make sure it's good here. And I didn't. And so it's a little bit off. The top is, I would say, maybe a 1/16 or maybe even just a 32nd of an inch higher than the tilt axis that I had laid out for the thing. Not a big deal. Not really that big a deal, because it still works well. And besides that, whenever you're going to make an angle cut, you never go from the scale anyway. I went to great lengths on the cast iron saw, 2 generations ago, to have that tilt line up with the scale, and I never did use it. Because whenever you're making an angle cut, say I made one here on a piece of particle board, you're cutting like this, okay? And it's this measurement up here generally that you need. And this down here is what would line up with the scale. Now, if you knew exact thickness of the material you're using, you can do the math and add 3/4 or subtract or whatever you have to do. But no, the best thing to do is you just start, like, lay it out where it needs to be cut. Just start cutting in a little bit and make adjustments from there. Sneak up on the cut. That's the best way. That's the tried and true way. That's the I build it way, okay? What else to talk about? The plastic top. Being plastic, it will expand and contract with changes in temperature, but the temperature shift here in the shop is not extreme. It's currently 20 degrees Celsius. I heat the shop up like minimum 5 degrees during the winter. So that's a 15-degree differential. I took a scrap of this plastic and I brought it out in the hot sun and left it out on a dark surface. And it went from 12 inches that I cut it to in here to 12 1/16. But that was like extreme hot. And then I took it and I put it in the freezer, which would be extreme cold. And it shrunk to 1/32 of an inch, less than 12, or 11 31 30 seconds. The old fence is on here temporarily until I build a new one. That's another thing, to bolster plan sales. Time for a new fence build video, and try to sell a few more plans for the fence. So yeah, it's time for that. I reviewed the plans. There's nothing that I'm going to change with them. Like, I did a good job with the design of that fence, or this fence. It's really good. The only difference that I can see, maybe, well, definitely with the fence part here, is I'm going to replace the plywood on the sides with the plastic I used on the top, which is really slick and really durable. The other thing, maybe I'll redesign the pointer a little bit, although this one works really well. So that's about it. That's all I can say. The new fence will have a longer rail. The surface of this saw on the top is 60 inches. The old fence was 50, so it'll be 10 inches longer. Give me more capacity over here, which is handy. I don't need it very often, but when I do, I'm trying to rig something up out there to try to catch the fence and all that stuff. This will be way better. I'll have that capacity just sitting there waiting for me to use it.
Your tattoo says hat.
Yeah, it used to say hate, but to increase my chances of employment, I got the year removed.
How's that working out for you?
Who doesn't like hats?